Shalom. Let me know if you can hear me. Greetings. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Oh my goodness. I'm out here trying to connect on Instagram too. Trying to connect in both places so I can be in two places at the same time. If you could see me, let me know. If you can't see me, let me know too. Because that will make sense, right? Um just waiting for everyone to filter in and come on into the sovereign space. I am oh good. All right. I am literally trying to get this something to work. Yeah, so I can connect and make a thing happen. So maybe I could be on both in two places at the same time. Peace, Naya. How are you? Greetings. How you do? How you doing? How are you? How are you? You can hear me? Okay, good. Good, good, good. Because I was wondering if I was, loud enough, if my volume's up, if everyone can hear me. You see you hard typing in gloves. Oh, all things considered, life and health and strength and knees that work. I am great. It is beautiful outside. This is true. This is true. It is quite beautiful outside. I'm enjoying it actually. Not for very long, but I'm enjoying it. I There were a couple of things I actually wanted to jump on and talk about. Um, of course, the the title of today's midday motivation is meds versus plants, and it had me thinking, like the last podcast that I shared yesterday. It had me thinking. You probably weren't able to connect with it until today, but it had me thinking about just that conversation um, between about type 2 diabetes or diabetes in general and how it afflicts the community, right? Melanated population, melanated community specifically. So today I just wanted to jump in and hear from you all, share a little bit about your thoughts around type 2 diabetes. Maybe you have family members who have some level of insulin resistance, or maybe their bodies don't produce insulin at all. So feel free to share. Those of you who are coming into our Instagram space, welcome. Those of you who are here on our YouTube channel, thank you for always being present. Greetings, Kashia. Aha, Kashia. How you doing? Um, how are you doing? How you doing? You and Naya. You're all in the space. I like it. I like it. Now, two things before I jump in and share a little bit. I am hot. I came out today thinking it was 54 and it's cool. Yeah, it's cool on the tree when the breeze blow, but then right now it is so warm. I have on a sweater, I have on a jacket. I am cooking. Okay? I am cooking. I'm in cook mode. Um, all right, Naya is already in the chat. Naya says, I don't have much experience, but I had a childhood friend that had some form of it and he gave himself shots. Right? And so the shots and the pills, the medication, um, it's that the battle is between that and plants. And I say the battle is between the meds and plants because there's so much around that dialogue that we cover in yesterday's podcast with Robin that really explains and breaks down, gives us a clear understanding of what the culprit is. And many times, between that meds versus plants, many times the battle so much is it's not so much that the medication does not work. It's just that the medication is, as my grandmother used to say, is a band-aid on a sore. So when you have a band-aid on a sore, I'm sorry, there's no recovering, right? It's just gonna fester. It all it does is manifest into larger problems. And it's interesting because as listening to some research, like a breakdown on some research that was done, where they actually tested people using a plant-based diet versus medication, and what they found was the medication, it did not reduce their mortality rate, right? It didn't reduce mortality rate at all. A matter of fact, they also noted that depending on the type of dietary change that these people made, the diet did not affect their mortality rate either, right? Greetings, Brother Zach Latimer. Thank you. Greetings for joining us. Peace. Ima Aquia. Thank you. Peace, peace. So we're delving into the ideas around um, meds versus plants when it comes to type 2 and type 2 diabetes, of course. And that's for those who have have someone, know someone, and I'm pretty sure we all have someone in the family, know someone, know of a person, um, have met a client, encountered a classmate, someone who we work with. I kid you not, I am sure we do because it is rampant, right? And so it it can attack anyone, it can attack anyone. And I find that it is very much a big problem in the melanated communities, right? And melanated neighborhoods, so to speak. So, and here's why it's important. It's important because people who have type 2 diabetes are actually, um, they're predisposed to health conditions that are lead to mortality, right? Health conditions that lead, heart health conditions specifically, amputation. And I'll just pause here and say my grandmother, yeah, my grandmother passed, and she passed a couple months after I connected with her. And the interesting thing about that story is um, I visited Grenada, and when I visited Grenada, it was August, so it was the middle of Carnival and all of what happens during Carnival. But I made it. It was important that I visit her, but I not only just visit her because I like to have my one-on-one time with her, but I visited her with my brother, um, and my sister. So all three of us, because I have two siblings, we all three of us visited her, and she gave us like that. I have to say that was her last message to us. Her last message was kind of like, she said, don't be too distant from your family members. Make sure that you all are close. Make connections. So I really have to say, um, that was August, and she passed in January, right? Not too long after her birthday, because her birthday is, and she's a December born, and that diabetes was a part of one of her problems, and she had extensive sores, and amputation is something that is always a possibility, always a possibility. So it's really important to think about the shift, right, in the plant based diet, shifting. Because again, as I said to you, all of the experimentation, all of the testing, all of the research, it literally shows that medication may help to augment a little bit, but it leads to mortality same way. And again, they're predisposed to kidney failure, blindness, frailty, right? And you notice that the bone structure becomes very brittle. They're prone to fractures, and that's because again, bone structure, bone density fizzles away. And so you have to question what is the role of the medication in that, right? There also, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to touch on type 2 diabetes this month as well, because this is mental health month. And so several of the things that they're exposed to or predisposed to are cognitive issues, right? So these are things that you may not notice. They may go on unobservable, but it may actually end up manifesting into dementia or, in some cases, Alzheimer's. But cognitive inconsistencies are rampant, right? Depression is one as well, and cognitive decline. So those are definitely directly connected to mental health. All right, and it that means that diabetes is directly connected to mental health and influences a person's mental condition. So, plants versus meds. I'm going to always argue that plants outweighs meds any day because of how wholesome they are. All right, just because of how wholesome they are. But I think it's important to think about what the research says. The research actually says that it's not about just augmenting your diet so that you eat less of the same junk and the same foods that actually help to increase insulin resistance. It's actually shifting to a predominantly plant based diet and reducing the amount of fats. Because if you listen to the episode with Robin on how to overcome type 2 diabetes, you hear her actually pinpoint the reason that type 2 diabetes is so rampant and it can be such a hard thing to overcome if you're just using meds, right? Or if you just continue to eat the same way, but just you eat small amounts of the same diet, that's a problem. She tells you it's the fats, it's the fat content actually affecting the receptors that allows for your body to process. So it is so intricate, and making sure that we pay attention to that shift in our diet is important. Making sure that we measure the intake of fats because that's primarily what happens. And again, I don't want to give away all of the juicy details that she shares on the podcast. I want you to go to the podcast and listen to it. But I really felt that it was, crucial to have that dialogue. And I see a lot of you sharing in the chat. So, Brother Zach says, would you suggest herbs on a consistent basis, or should one rely solely on their diet? Herbs can definitely support the system, but what makes the huge difference is diet. Diet, not just focusing on glycemic index. I know type 2 is specific to the blood sugar content and glucose, but it's really important to pay attention to the amount of fat, because the fat overconsumption of fat is actually what leads to the body actually being the body not being able to process insulin and the increased levels of resistance to insulin. So yeah, there are a couple of things you can use: cinnamon, and there are other herbs that are bitter herbs that are helpful for that. But I would say it's really important to pay attention to that diet and not just let's shrink the amount that we eat, not just replacing white potatoes with sweet potatoes, actually reducing fat and increasing greens and vitamin K and so on in the diet. That's important. Greetings, make manifest, peace. How are you? Zach Latimer says, can medicine be utilized in any fashion, or should it be disposed of completely? I would not dispose of the medication completely. The body, we think about it, right? Sister Kashia is in here. This is a resident doula. We wean babies off of milk, right? Breast milk. Um, so I think it's important that if we've been relying on something to support us and to keep us healthy, Yes, it's drugs. We want to get off of it, but it's important to wean yourself. So it's not. I would definitely suggest whoever your practitioner is, you work with them so you move strategically off of the medication, but making sure that you're augmenting your diet as well too, and you're shifting your diet to a whole plant-based diet. Make Manifest says diabetes is so rampant in the family. Oh my goodness. You are born and reared in the Caribbean. I know what you're talking about. It's all over. I don't know why, but part of our discussion in the podcast, and we'll keep going back to podcast, actually touches on the idea of generational curses, because there's a rejecting of what you know is right for you. And what is right for you is to kind of shift that diet. But we desire certain things in terms of foods, right? So if we change the recipes and we change the cookbook, so to speak, we'll see some changes. But I think it's rampant because we are perpetuating cycles of lifestyle when it comes to food. And food is a huge part of our culture. Let me go to those who are on the YouTube side, because I have not been ignoring y'all. Let me give y'all some love over here. Let me give y'all some love. Kashia says, this is all I use for healing is plants. Even as a child, I am adopted, and my parents were unsure, so naturally only Tylenol is the strongest thing I've used over the years. I don't use that anymore. Right. Akuya says, "Oh look, is that your bike?" Yes, it is my bike. I have two flat tires, and I'm on my way to the tire shop. Let's see what happens. Maybe I have. Maybe I need to change the tubes because they keep leaking. That's besides the point. Sister Kashia Naya says, Kashia, does OTC stuff like Tylenol knock you out? I took an leave it. Yeah, stay away from it. It'll wreak havoc on your digestive system. My father's mother with her legs due to poor diet. Her mother as well passed away due to health conditions. She too was poor. Amputation is, whew, it is not a very easy thing to deal with. Sometimes, and I'm not for the person who has diabetes, but also for family members as well, because then they have to carry that, right? I don't want to say it's a burden because I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone, but they have to carry that. And again, tweaking and changing diet is all that's required. All that's required. Even flax seeds, right? I know I talk about flax seeds and estrogen levels, but even including a quarter cup of flaxseed in your meal planning or any food smoothie or anything that you make to consume, including that alone every day actually will move toward decreasing the your issues with type 2 diabetes, and it will help to balance out your insulin resistance. So again, making sure, and for me, I consider that flaxseed is the whole. You're not just considering flaxseed oil. So don't ask about flaxseed oil, because if you have type 2 diabetes, you want to stay away from certain oils, coconut oil specifically, because they help to clamp and cake up inside of your system, and that's what causes the receptors to kind of stop functioning. Um, ooh. Naya says, I remember seeing amputees growing up, and they used to scare me, but as I got older, I didn't understand why they kept eating the things that made their limbs right. Um, yeah, food is food is a part of our culture. You know, food is a huge part of our culture, and it remains at the center of how we celebrate. You know, we how we treat ourselves. We treat ourselves using food. You know, if we accomplish a goal, we give ourselves a treat, and that treat is typically food. Sweet foods at that, and sweet foods help to trigger pleasure centers in the brain. So listen, it's discipline. Discipline is at the core of it, and working with someone who can support you so that you can be successful. Yes, Make Manifest says, um, I look lovely. Oh, thank you very much. I caught you in your live earlier too. I couldn't get my headphone to shift. Yes, facts. Zach Latimer says, how much would you say capitalism is involved in having people maintain the same diet and getting them on meds? Yeah, capitalism is a huge part of it, but we walk spirit, soul, and will. And we also have history. So in this day and age, I would say that we have decisions to make, right? The information is in front of us. So I could talk about capitalism, but I think each individual, based on history as well as what they see are happening around them, can make decisions, right? So this is part of me being a little bit opinionated now and adding my 2 cents. Yes, part of my 2 cents is yes, people are responsible. You become responsible for your health and maintaining a particular diet. If you say you're not going to be able to afford shifting into a vegan or vegetarian diet, I'll say this: the more greens you eat, the less you have to eat. I'm going to drop that there for now. The more green leafy vegetables you eat, the less you have to eat, the less you want to eat. And the more you push yourself to reducing how much you consume, your body starts to work efficiently. The less oils we use, the less salt we use. Very important. I know greens is not on the dollar menu, Brother Zach, right? Greens is not on the dollar menu. Um, but at the same time, it takes, I'm going to say it takes way less to maintain a healthy family if we shift the diet. But yes, the system is created to funnel people toward um, dependency on prescription drugs. Um, and if you think about it, we can think about the fact that if you go to a regular practitioner as opposed to a holistic doctor, um, you may not have to pay. You may have a small copay, right? But if you go to a holistic practitioner, you try to go to a coach, you'll have to come out of pocket, right? So it definitely sets the stage for people to kind of be pigeonholed and consistently um, move within a system that helps to pay for them to see results, but most times they don't see results through the meds. Most time they don't see results. What do you think, Brother Zach, if you're still there? What do you think? Naya Akuya says yes, DM affects peripheral circulation, leading to amputations of the lower extremities, diabetes mellitus. Listen, Sister Akuya, when I was growing up, I used to hear people talking about mellitus, and I was, what is this thing? It sounds so strange. I couldn't figure out what it was, but as I grew older, I got to understand that that was something that was very rampant in my family as well. Um, I don't have it. Thank you very much. It has not developed. It will not, and not within for my siblings either, but definitely very much present in my larger extended relatives and blood family. Naya says, "Oh no, not both tires flat. Yeah, both tires flat, but that's fine. It's in walking distance from here." All right, so I am going to close, and I'm going to close because I have been talking up a storm, and I appreciate you all listening. I appreciate you all. Make Manifest, Zach Latimer for jumping on. Journey to Self Love. I like that. Journey to Self Love. Peace and greetings. I didn't even see you there. You disappeared in between Zach and greetings, Alien Black Girl. Thank you for joining us on Instagram. We are about to jump off. Brother Zach just posted. He said, I think even the food chart sets folks up for failure. I think of folks in low income neighborhoods and think, do they have the same exposure to greens than chips? Brother Zach, so I taught in Bedford Stuyvesant for about 11 years. And I used to On my lunch breaks, I used to walk to the store just to, maybe pick up kombucha or some kind of tea or something, water or whatever, that they have that I could consume, if I didn't bring my own. And I would stand there and I would watch people. I would literally watch elders specifically, right? They're looking at the fresh produce, but also looking at the ramen noodles. And I'm watching them and I can tell. I offered many times to purchase food for them. But I watch them and I realize that there is a dilemma. There is a dilemma. So although I said what I said a couple minutes ago, I do agree. There is a dilemma when it comes to what you can purchase in the moment. And what people tend to do is they'll purchase the cheapest food as opposed to identifying what is healthier with long life, right? Or extension of life. So yes, sometimes it's difficult to watch and sometimes it's difficult to experience, but knowing that, if we know better, we can teach them, share. Um, we can offer to purchase fresh greens and veggies for others. We can purchase from companies that give to the community or give back to the community. But yes, I do think the food chart also does pigeonhole everyone because here's the thing, when you have type 2, most of the time when you go to the doctor, the first thing they'll tell you is, okay, lose weight. And yes, they'll probably hand you the food chart as well. The problem is, and they'll tell you to reduce the amount that you eat, as opposed to saying to you, here are the optimum foods that you should be consuming. When you consume animal fat, it increases your LDL, and that level and that type of fat affects your body's ability to process insulin. That type of conversation, I don't know if those conversations happen because I have not. But what I do hear is the prescription drugs is what is best for you because it helps to produce um, insulin for those who don't, and for those who are resistant, it helps to balance that out. Um, I say it reminds me of my brother who still uses a pump, right? He's asthmatic. He has an asthma. Yeah, he uses a pump. But I've been around other people who started off using pumps and stopped because they shifted diet, but they also increased the amount of pentatonic B5 and removed the pump, because when you use the pump, the body becomes what you might call it. Um, the body just becomes, it kind of leans on the medication consistently. So the lungs, right? The lungs no longer remember how to function. Those muscles, they can't function anymore. And so once you keep using it, that's what happens. It just kind of reduce. If you take B5 and you shift your diet, it actually helps to so that your body is able to fight off the asphyxiating that happens when you have an asthmatic attack. I think I'm missing um, a couple people here. Let me scroll. Dependent. Thank you very much, Aquia. Thank you, Sister Aquia. Dependent. Oh my goodness, I probably have type 2. Oh my goodness. Quest Royal, greetings, peace, and thank you for joining us. Oh my goodness, this is awesome. Um, Brother Zach says, does time become a factor in how people choose what to consume? What do you mean? Can you explain a little bit more? Oh, Kuya, you're laughing at me. Okay. What do you mean? Does time become a factor in how people choose what to consume? You mean food consumption based on the time of the day? If it's food consumption based on the time of the day, I would say yes. Circadian rhythms kind of dictate that. I don't know if you could hear me. It dictates that you should consume not consume sweet things like in the early dawnings, but toward the latter half of the dawning, midday, and even when the sun is highest, because that means that your body can process these things more efficiently, right? But during the early dawning hours, and when you see people having pancakes and syrups and things like that, it makes me realize how much we clog our system before allowing it to actually eliminate and flush itself out. Right, Ima Queer? The, Zach Latimer says time as in what would be quick to eat to buy on their way as opposed to cooking and taking more time to prepare. Yes, I would say time is a huge factor, but preparation is key. Like ramen noodles and hot water. I mean, ramen noodles and hot water is fast, but guess what? Um, uh, a quinoa bowl is fast too if I prepare quinoa in batch amount on, let's say, Sunday, and then every day I mix and match what I make. Like, there are people, and I've done it for one or two people in the past. This was about 5 years ago. Teachers and other people who are corporate workers, they actually purchase meals that are prepared. Now, I'm not telling you to go purchase meals, but that's the idea. You prep large amounts of healthy, wholesome meals and prepackage them. So that way, every day, all you have to do is grab and go. So that way, you're not prepping every day. I understand the convenience is what will kill us. That's my response, brother Zach. I agree with you. Time is of the essence. Not everyone has the time, but convenience is a crutch. It's a death sentence, more to speak. But I think the planning is key, and probably identifying somebody who can help to food prep or create meals that are easy and quick, but wholesome at the same time is important. Imakuya says, yes, for me, time was a factor in terms of preparation. I felt like it took too much time to prep healthy meals, but I put a fix to that. Working for the man was a problem. Yes, working for the man is a problem. Okay, this is true. That's a big conversation that we can have, but there'll be so many perspectives because we're no longer having it within our community. We're having it on a public in a public forum where perspectives differ, and when perspectives differ, uh, that's more than likely that's because there's a difference in culture, and if there's a difference in culture, then we're working from different standards, straight up. So, but thank you, brother Zach, for your questions. Ditch the ramen noodles. Try yourself some quinoa. Try yourself some zucchini noodles instead, and pre-package them and yourself. Don't buy the prepackaged one. Prepackage them yourself. Grab yourself some tomatoes, throw them in the blender, put some seasonings, put a dab of flaxseed. That's to help you so that you can keep the type 2 away, and some rosemary, basil, and make yourself some ramen noodle, zucchini style, fresh off the boat. um, Zach says, would you say the importance of family being taught at a young age will help to alleviate some of that? Oh, yes, that's key. That's important. As I was walking my bike over here, well, toward the shop, I was thinking about exactly that, the implications of knowing type 2 diabetes to the core, understanding the source of the issue, and being able to teach that to young people, to youth. Because if you have youth surviving and maintaining healthy lifestyles, right? Not just what they eat, but what they think and the other things that they consume. If you have youth who are able to see the value and learn the value of that and be able to feed themselves appropriately and adequately, then yeah, we begin to eliminate those generational curses, right? So part of eliminating that generational curse, which would be type 2, is being able to pass on that knowledge to youth, right? So that they know how to eat, they know how to eat so they do not spike blood glucose levels, they know how to remove they know, sorry, the value of removing um, fats from meats and just fats in general and fried foods in general, so that way they can lean toward just a healthier lifestyle and not have to combat some of the issues that they develop in later years. And I'm not saying, okay, do that and that will solve all your problems, because I know personally of other people who have a lifelong, they have to actually sit in oxygen chambers in order to survive, right? Because these are the things that will help them. They have to get ozone therapy. So there are other healing modalities to employ to help you, right? And some of that requires research. Some of that requires finding someone who can help you and send you on that path. Um, but yes, for youth, I definitely think family is important. Not a single parent um, hook up, because I can't say I hear people say it all the time. Single parent, what household? That's not really a household, right? Nor is it a family, but people choose it as an option. But family is important, and in order to have family, you have to have the man, you have to have the woman, and children will blossom in that balanced family situation. Zach says, seems like emotional eating is huge and family would be a big stress factor for folks. Yeah, family is a stress factor, but family is also, so I was, wait, y'all have me here longer than, oh, it's 107. Oh my goodness. So, but I love it. I love it. If not taught properly and poor health habits ensue. This is true. But so I want to fence a little bit about that, because so I'll repeat. Brother Zach says that it seems like emotional eating is huge, and family would be a big stress factor for folks. Family would be a big stress factor, but I think knowledge and application of knowledge, as Chief says it, is key here. If you have that knowledge, because you mentioned youth growing up in family and knowing the value of eating healthy, so that way it becomes, it's a lifestyle, and they won't shift away from it. They won't move away from it. The woman I interviewed, she transitioned. Her husband transitioned at 60 something. Transitioned to a raw vegan lifestyle, not raw vegan, but a vegan lifestyle at 60, because he developed type 2, and all of her youth, all four of them, had to transition to a vegan lifestyle, and they did. And it's interesting. She says of the four of them, three maintain that lifestyle now, and one kind of like functions back and forth, but he's high vegan. I guess you could say that. So you know, yes, sometimes family might stress you out, but it's important to make that decision, decide this is what you want to do, but not just because it's a bandwagon thing and everybody's talking about plant based, but because you see the value in shifting, right? You see how much it can help to boost your health and the health of those around you, because people will see you and they're like, I want to be that way. I want whatever success you have there, skin glowing, you're healthy, you're not taking shots, you put the prescriptions down. I want that too. And that, like you doing is a model, and that would definitely help. Um, but yeah, it can be stressful, but I think in this day and age, at this stage in the game, I don't know if it will be that stressful. If you take, if family members and let me know if I'm not answering the question, Brother Zach. But if families take liberty, or people take liberty to eat um, tripe filled with like blood, I'm sorry, I'm a big get like real raw, because sometimes I don't. I'm just like dainty. Today I'm saying it. They take the liberty to eat that, and that's good food for you. Then if you take the liberty to eat pig intestine, then I take the liberty to eat leeks stuffed with some walnut patty. How about that? So you could sit there and do that, and I'll take my nori rolls and make me some nori rolls that kind of looks like it, but it doesn't. It is not animal fats and animal tripe, right? That's a decision. So if you can make that decision, then I can make my decision about what I eat and what's healthiest. Of course, if you're a youth and you're living in a household, that's a whole different story. Maybe you want to tap into those of you who have youth who maybe want to hear my story. That's a whole different. That's another day. But to speak to the point that you made, brother Zach, I was having a conversation. I think I was trying to say that earlier. I was having a conversation with some sisters. We were talking about um, mind, heart, words. Actually, we were talking about mind, heart, words. And with mind, heart, words, one of the sisters was speaking about triggers, but also thinking about the idea of feelings as explained in Mind Heart Words, which is a book written by Chief Yuya for those who are listening now or later. um, and as we were discussing, we were just talking about how the mind controls so much of what we do, how we think, and the things that we desire, the foods we desire, the tendencies we have. And Sister Akuya, you know, one of the sisters said, I love eating, what do you call those things? They're like puffs, cheese puffs. Peace, Herbal Bush House. Greetings. Welcome to the Sovereign Space. How are you? How are you? How are you? Um, Let me see if I can sneeze now. I can't sneeze. I'm joking. Um, what do you call? I guess they're like cheese curls. They're puffy, cheesy things. And so she was saying that just she was saying it's hard for her to resist it, right? It's hard for her to resist that type of food. Um, and because of that, you're saying, she couldn't figure out like where that addiction was coming from. All right. And this goes back to your point, Brother Zach, about the stress. Like, can families create stress? But sometimes it's not just the stress, sometimes it's the memories, because those loving experiences that we have and exchanges that we have, they sit in the mind, and they give us good feelings. And so what's interesting is her point was that, which is the point that I make about my father and peanuts all the time. Her point was that whenever her father went away, he would come back and bring them treats, and the treats he would specifically bring them were the cheesy puffy curls. So she has been eating those cheesy, and her father passed away. um, I think that it was something with kidney or his liver. This was decades ago, but he passed away. And when he passed away, I know she took it really, really hard, right? Um, but I think that was her way of reconnecting consistently with the memory of her father when she consumed, or trying to find comfort um, in his presence, of try and find comfort in him through conquerors. And maybe that's an excuse, I don't know, but this was something that she was saying. So I was saying that to say that family can pose stress, but they can also pose um, memories, right? They can also create memories, and those memories we latch on to. And because we latch on to the memories and those good experiences, it kind of tends to create addictions for us, where we constantly find ourselves going back to those foods. Um, so that may have been on or off the point. I don't know, but it just took me down to that sister and her experience, and I realized I have the same experience too, and many of us probably do. So maybe sometimes it's not the family stressing us out. Sometimes it's we still connected to those foods. Imakuya says family isn't the only stress factor for emotional eating. It is a compulsion that stems from an unpleasant event. Ah, right, 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 right. Which is very similar to the sister's experience, because it's a pleasant event. So it can either be fixation on the pleasant event, which for her it was the experience of um, her dad bringing them treats, and she's just like, oh my gosh, dad's here, we can't, and she has several siblings, so you could imagine dad comes home after being away for so long and working, and comes home and they're like, everybody loses their mind. So that's pleasant, but I agree, Ima Akuya, that's a good point. Stress factor is not only the only thing, but there's also the unpleasant events that can trigger eating, and we have to make sure we put plans and things in place for that. Yoakuya says, I see the value in shifting, and I'm learning to trust the ability of how my body processes the plants I consume. Yes. You, yes. That's the only thing I can say. I can only smile and say yes. The Anue speaks of the sacredness of eating plant life and how our bodies transforms it for our use. Yes, exactly. Listen, I can't. Plants are so responsive. Y'all have me on a topic here. I could keep going and going, but I have to leave. Um, Plants are so responsive, right? They're so purposeful. They're so intentional. But everything that Yah creates in this space we call on this earth is purposeful. Is made with intention. Plants are so responsive to what our needs are, right? I can't help but when I travel and I go to places, I can't help but get fixated on what plants grow there, because it speaks to what issues are present. It speaks to what healing is also present. And Herbal Bush House can probably speak to that if he's on. Herbal Bush House, whenever I catch his eyes, I hear him dropping drills and dropping information about that. Um, Brother Zach says, what would you say the number one factor is that prevents people from converting to a plant based diet? What? Wait, am I being interviewed here? Oh my gosh. Ima Akuya says she loves this. I love this too. This is really good. This is really good. It's I say it's purpose. It's purpose is the one factor that prevents. And again, I'm giving an opinion. This is not from a place of like a psychologist response. This is, yeah. No, no, keep the questions coming. I'm just joking. I'm just joking around. Keep the questions coming. It's purpose. If you do not know what it is or why it is that you want to make that shift and that change, you will lose sight. You will lose sight, and purpose is tied up with vision. You're gonna lose sight. And I don't. You know how I know it's purpose? People change their diet. Look at the man. Go to the episode on any of the platforms and look for the Sovereign Needs podcast and listen to Robin talk about the shift that her husband had to make at 60, not 45, not 35, not 25, 60, right? Who knows how long he has been walking around pre-diabetic? Who knows, right? Because that's always my thing. I always say they only tell you when you get into the ranges, but when you're really close to the range, the red flags probably going off. And if you were someone who got regular blood tests and sat and deconstructed it yourself, not just listened to the doctor, but looked at it and picked it apart yourself, you would know to shift your diet or long before they told you anything, right? But I know its purpose because when you are given a life and death situation in front of you, there is no question as to your purpose. Your purpose is to live. So if your purpose is to live and survive, and you say to yourself, well, they're giving me an ultimatum. If I keep doing this, I have diabetes, I have this, I have that. If I keep doing this, then I will not be able to extend my life. Everybody wants to live, right? So in order to extend your life, you will do what is required. And I say that because I see too many people in my family, my relatives, and my blood family have to shift and they only shift when it becomes detrimental, right? They only shift. So that's how I know it's purpose. Your purpose is to live. So once you have something, disease or something that's threatening your life, you're going to find the space, time, and willpower to shift. You will. You will. I remember sitting with a sister who um, has an oral fixation. Um, and this was long, long ago. And one of the questions I kind of asked was, if if lung failure becomes the problem, and lung cancer becomes the issue that's on the table, it means that you'll have to stop smoking. And I'm bringing that up too because my dad was a smoker for many years, and he stopped. When he stopped when and if my dad's, listening to this at any point, yes, I'm putting a little bit out there. He stopped when two of his very close compadres passed away. One was a chain smoker, and I knew them very well because they sat and played domino in front of me as a child growing up, and then they were no longer there. My godfather smoked a lot, right? But they didn't. I don't think they lived in a time period where there was a lot of campaigning around tobacco and so on. So I'm not shifting the conversation to the tobacco, but it's just, the conversation is really about around the idea of purpose and willpower. Ima Akuya said, not wanting to be enlightened was a big factor for me, or not wanting to be enlightened. There are some who just don't want to know or who don't want to change. I know an individual who'd rather take pills than simply eat right. Right, right. But the thing is, Ima Akuya, they'll take the pills, and the pills is plaster on top of sore. That's what my grandmother used to say. You're taking, you're putting bandage on plaster is tape, is it's you what do we call it? Bandages. You put in we call it band-aid. You put in band-aid on a sore. You can't put band-aid on a sore. So you have to treat very differently. And I know you're a nurse, so you done make the connection already, right? Those pills, they're gonna see the side effects years after. And they're gonna I don't know what the pills are, but there are always side effects because when you do not and pills, yes, they're derived from plants. We could talk about Tylenol, aspirin all day. I remember meeting a man in a where were we? We were at the airport. I was at the airport working, and he started to talk about plants. And because he saw I was vegan, he started to go in, and he was just like, "No, I'm a doctor, and this is, all of these drugs are made from plants." And yeah, that's besides the point. They're not whole. You're extracting a chemical from there, and you're using it in isolation. Plants don't work that way. They'll work, but there's gonna be a mutation. We all seen the videos, movies, everything. You take an extract, you drop it in water somewhere, and next thing you have mutations. There's always a mutation. There's always an effect, and that effect, it actually works. It is counterproductive to health. Counterproductive. So I don't know what those pills are, and yes, there are some times again where you have to wean yourself off, or you may have to take a balance of the two. But I don't ever think there's a time when people can't opt for eating healthy. It's a choice. It's a choice. Um, but Zach says, don't have to tell me twice. Would you say the brown boxes with trees on the front that say vegan help or hurt one as they make that shift? The brown boxes with trees on the front that say vegan help or hurt? They hurt. They hurt because, first of all, they hurt your pocket. Listen, y'all have me here. First of all, they hurt your pocket. So let's not even go there. It hurts your pocket because if you buy a dehydrator, you buy a sturdy blender, you're cooking with gas. Not literally, but yeah, those boxes. If correct me if I'm going down the wrong way. Can y'all hear me still? It's very breezy, and I'm not sure if it makes sense to stay on if you're not hearing me. So just let me know on Instagram or on YouTube if I am, if I am clear still. But yeah, they first of all they hurt your pockets, and many of them have added natural flavors that you're not trying to utilize. Many of them have added sugars, and I think that's a big part of the problem for those who suffer with type 2 or people who have blood sugar fluctuations that they can't help. A lot of people, they'll eat a certain food and they'll find themselves lethargic and falling asleep, and you're like, oh, I don't know why. This is just it's not itis. It's not that. It is your blood, whatever the glycemic index of that food is, it was too high, and your body processed that sugar way too quickly, and so your glucose levels are elevated, and you become lethargic. Interestingly, we always talk about carbs, how they give us energy, but no, those will make you lethargic in a heartbeat, and there are other things that they will do. But those brown boxes have all of these added preservatives as well, um, added fats, especially hydrogenated fats, which you want to stay away from. They'll clog your system up. So yeah, we can make our own. Um, we can make our own. I see people. The problem though is I think we're all, rather than creating foods that we like and enjoy, we want to recreate what we had before, right? So you know what do you call it? Cauliflower buffalo wings. I don't have a problem with it. Sure, get creative, but now you start deep frying everything, right? I'm gonna say this. Have you had? If you have ever gone to one of the vegan, now our conversation between meds and plants continues, but we're kind of shifting from diabetes, but that's fine. Um, I I charge you, if you can, at some point to go to a vegan festival, a vegan food festival, well, of course, and tell me what you see. Tell me what you observe about the presence of plants, the actual presence and appreciation for plants in the foods that you see, because I, based on what I see, there's a nice variety of different shades of brown. Because if it's not baked, if it's not super fried and battered, it's not there. you know, you don't see a lot of live foods. When you hear vegan, most people think the brown box with the plant on the side, right? And that was some of the conversation that we had in our on the episode 13 from yesterday. It was kind of like, yeah, you walk into the store and they have a big banner. They're saying, okay, we're going vegan, and then you see a table, sorry, covered in boxes and packages of things: high cholesterol, high fat, lots of oils, high levels of salt, hidden flavors, hidden preservatives, and some of them, you all know those big labels. They get away with adding um, animal derivatives and chopping and screwing the name and calling it something else, and then saying, okay, it's plants. Yeah. And they're FDA approved. Brother Zach says that would tell us that pasta was the best thing to consume before a game. They would tell us that pasta was the best thing to consume before a game. Are you specifically talking about advertisements and media? Media, yeah. You know, right now YouTube has ramped up their ads. So if you enjoy looking at documentaries, even, or anything for that matter on YouTube, they've ramped up that so much that it begins to trigger your old desires, you know. Oh, for energy. Yes, this is true. This is true. But I'm sure we could think of several wholesome root vegetables that we could consume that, pasta, pasta can't compare. I see pasta as empty calories, actually. I see pasta as empty calories, really and truly. Um, Hima Hakuya says, hold on. Oh, wow, this is all this conversation happening. So, for those of you who are on Instagram, on YouTube, um, Ima Kuya says, I had to change because I finally saw that my mind was really off due to improper eating. Uh-huh. Right. So now you're moving toward a place towards a place where your body is not controlling your mind. I jumped on a live the other day and I heard someone, sharing something that kind of sounded a little bit off. But yeah, your body not, shouldn't be controlling this. Your body's a vehicle. That's it. And if it's a vehicle, there's something else that's the mastermind moving it, right? It's not just a vehicle. If it didn't have something to move it, shift the gears, press the gas, it ain't going nowhere. All those cars sitting out there, they ain't going anywhere, you know? Um, Naya says, Akuya, that's great that you acknowledge it and chose to make a positive change. Yes, it is. And being able to keep on that path and having a community and community accountability is huge. Is huge. Akuya says, this was good. I have to go now. I have so much to accomplish. Ah, yes, I see. I got you. I agree. I do too. I need to cut it. Cut it. But thank you for being in the space. Sister Kashia says everything that glitters ain't gold. Research before buying and applying is key. Kashia also says yes, redefining my relationship with food, seeing it as nourishment and not something to soothe and satisfy me. Exactly. Exactly. At the festivals, it's everything but plants. Tofu, this, for me, that. That's right. Full of processed substitutes. Processed substitutes all the time. And if you have anything that's in its natural state, they're gonna fry it. Like I looked at someone take watermelon and bake it and seasoned it and something and then try to make bacon out of it. I'm like, why? Why do I have to replicate pig meat? Why? Why? For to eat, just eat. It's there. You don't have to eat something that looks like bacon or resembles it to be satisfied. You know. um, Akuya says I bought a so-called vegan patty, horrid, oily, full of batter crust. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. Kashia says when foods are deep fried, their value dissolves. This is true, and it adds. It's adding cholesterol to what you consume. It's adding cholesterol. The military suggested drinking a beer before going on doing our physical tests as fuel to burn. I could see that. I mean, beer has alcohol, but beer is made of hops. Beer's sorry. Sometimes I tend to say some of these words very harshly. So sorry. Beer is made from hops, and hops can be a stimulant. I enjoy black. What is it? Blackberry hops kombucha, and it's very energizing. Very energizing. There are other things that I can take, but the kombucha is also helpful and healing to my gut. So I could see why they would say drinking beer because it is fuel. Beer is hops. Hops is. Brother Zach says I only mention that because once one is done playing, I see brothers still consuming these pastas and things, which in turn would bring on diabetes. This is true. This is true. So the levels of carbohydrates, because it's true, carbs and sugars store in your body as fat, and the increased amount of fat is actually what prevents the body from being able to produce insulin, or the body becomes insulin resistant. So I could see how understanding the value of pulling back and utilizing carbs, but utilizing whole foods as opposed to things like pasta. And I think too, it's the craving for it, because when you're finished as an athlete, um, I wasn't a professional athlete, but as an athlete, or exerting yourself, when you're done, you want to replenish. You actually feel like you're depleting and you want to replenish. So I guess maybe that's why they found themselves gorging on pasta after, because they felt as if they needed to replenish. But from what I know, replenishing requires consuming amino acids, or proteins, and some sort of protein drink. So I don't know, why do you think they consumed large amounts of pasta after? Grace and peace to you all. Greetings, Chief. Peace and welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being in the space and joining us. We are about to sign off, Chief Yuya, um, because we've been here for a while. Peace, you all. Okay. Brother Zach says, how much fat would you say is good for the brain, and how does one know that they are going overboard? You know, how much fat? So the percentage of fat, I can't say, because I don't have that percentage off the top of my head. I would say eating fats as a whole, right? So if you consume nuts and grains, relying on the fats that are present in nuts and some grains is important, as opposed to adding oils. So that's the one way you can regulate how much oil or fats, so to speak, that you're consuming. I know people like pastries and breads and so on, and they include fats in that. If you make your own, you can regulate and control um, how much fat you consume, but making sure that, and I have oil, bottles of oil, but there was a huge time in portion of my journey where I did not include any oils, except for maybe a little bit of sesame seed oil here and there, but not large levels of oil that I pour into food. And so for someone who has type 2, I think it's important to regulate the amount of consumption of fat that you have. However, the body needs fat. So I'm not saying don't consume fat, but consuming things like, yes, avocado, all of those fruits that are nice and fatty, a lot of the tropical fruits that we consume, they have some levels of fat in them as well. Um, so consuming avocados, please don't go overboard with the avocados. I know I do. And I shouldn't. So don't go overboard with them. But having a few avocados a week is good. But I say the one piece of advice that's the best, um, and it's the most powerful, is to, remove those liquid fats. Stop pouring oils into the foods that you consume. Stop deep fat frying foods. Stop deep fat frying foods, because those are the hydrogenated fats that we consume, and those are the fats that can clog the system. I go ham on those joints. I'm glad you said that. Oh, and the avocado. Okay. But if you're exercising a lot and you're athletic, um, there are some, there are some provisions for that, because you're athletic, you're constant. If you're someone who's sedentary, then it means that you're going to have to find an outlet to exercise, so that you can utilize the stored fats, right? And you can utilize the stored carbs and so on. You have to. But if you're working out, then that's a bit different. Chief says getting that glycogen after exercising is the reason for those high carb intakes. Oh, really? So, yes, I thought Ima Kuya left too, Sister Kashi. I thought she was like, I have a bunch of things to do. Okay, so Chief, are you saying that is a replacement? That should be a replacement, taking in glycogen rather than consuming high carbs after exercising? Yes. So you can continue to consume your avocados. That's good. Mashed, peeled, sliced, chopped, chunky, um, creamed. Anyway, you know, because again you're exercising constantly, so you're going to be able to reduce the amount of fat that your body holds onto. But someone who is older or someone who is not working out or not an athlete, I wouldn't suggest that. I wouldn't suggest that at all. Um, yeah, so our conversation went into so many different paths today. It's not even funny, but this was good. This was really good. Chief, yeah, I asked. I don't know if you heard me. Probably not, but I'm probably misreading the sentence. But yeah, there's so many things that we can do to support us. And when it comes to the meds versus plants battle, um, there will always be, for me, plants. There will always be plants. And for those of you who are, I think my live just chipped out a little bit, so I'll kind of sit on here and wait. But I think I went over the hour, so I lost my video. Wow. Oh my goodness. So yeah, that was it. That was horrible. I just lost the whole video, y'all. It just conked out on me. Um, but this was really really a long conversation, good dialogue, great build. I will see you all on for Sovereign Sunday on Sunday. We may or may not have another guest on, but I always look forward to sharing space with you all and building and having good, strong dialogue. So I will see you all again. Enjoy the rest of your day. I am going to fix my bike. Let's see. Maybe I have to replace the tubes. I don't know. And I'll probably share a picture after. After I get it done, maybe it needs a tune up. I do not know. But thank you all. Peace and power to you. Thank you, Chief Yuya, for being in the space. Thank you, Sister Kashia, Sister Kuya, and Naya. I really appreciate that. Peace to you all. Peace and power.